Welcome back to the Cultura and Cash podcast. This is Giovanna Gonzalez, author of the best-selling book Cultura and Cash and the finfluencer known as Gigi or the First Gen Mentor. On today's episode, I'll be answering an email subscriber's question about writing a book. But first, let's do some housekeeping at the top of the episode. First, I wanted to thank you for helping me reach 100 plus reviews on Amazon. That is a huge milestone. It typically takes people a year to achieve that. So the fact that it's been a little over a month that the book has been out, a month and a half, I'd say, and that we are already at 100 plus reviews is something I am very, very proud of. And I think it just speaks on how impactful the book has been that people feel the need to go in and share that with others. So I really, really appreciate your support by leaving a review. To celebrate, I will be giving away 3 signed hardcover copies of the book Cultura and Cash. They're valued at $40, and I will be giving away one to my TikTok community, one to my LinkedIn community, and one to my Instagram community. And if you are a part of all three, you are welcome to enter all three to increase your chances. I will be creating a video or a post on that later this week, so stay tuned for that. But I'm giving you the heads up now. So, again, please keep the reviews coming. I have been fortunate to have mostly 5-star reviews, but I just need honest reviews. So, again, if it's a 4, give me a 4. If it's a 2, give me a 2. Just genuine reviews of what you liked or didn't like about the book would be very, very helpful in helping the book get discovered by other first gen Latinas who could benefit from the knowledge in the book. Next, my next in person event will be this Thursday at Postres Cafe in Bellflower with Gabby and Alejandra Campoverde. I am so excited. I've already done a similar event like this with Alejandra in Chicago, and we had such a blast. So I'm excited to do it again this time for the LA people. So unfortunately, the event is sold out. I knew it would sell out because it's a smaller venue. It sold out, I think, within a day and a half. But don't worry, if you are in LA and you were not able to get tickets, keep an eye on my stories, on my Instagram stories, because people last minute will always DM me and be like, hey, Gigi, I can't make it after all because this came up and I'd like to donate my ticket. So basically, I will post on stories, hey, we have another ticket up, and the first person to respond is the first person I'll give it to. If the story is still up, that means that the ticket is still available. So if you missed out on those tickets, that's a good way to try to snag a ticket last minute by keeping an eye on my IG stories. Or also, you can look to attend Latina Fest. I will be back in LA on Sunday, March 24th. Latina Fest are expecting about 3,000 attendees, so it'll be a big event. I'll be a panelist speaker, and I will also have an author booth where you can stop by and take photos with me, say hi, get your copy signed. So you can buy tickets to Latina Fest, which are only $10, at culturaandcash.com. All right, now that we took care of some housekeeping, let's jump into the question. And this question is from Danelli. Again, she sent it to me via my email list. I sent my monthly newsletter last week, and I said I launched a podcast in case you missed it. If you have any questions you'd like me to answer, just send them to me and I will address one a future episode. And I like this one. So Danelli asks, I know you've mentioned in your podcast that you will have a free webinar in May on your publishing journey experience, but I would definitely love to hear a lot more about that journey. Also super excited about your audiobook. Thank you for the work you do. Saludos desde Nashville, Tennessee. Thank you. Thank you so much, Danelli. Yeah. And very quick on the audiobook. Yeah, I'm still doing voice lessons. The audiobook narration will happen in mid-May. I am not looking forward to it. If you watch my stories, I share some tips that I got from fellow author friend Emily Ballesteros, and basically you drink a lot of hot tea. When you get home, you don't speak. I'm basically gonna have to like tape my mouth shut because you really are supposed to preserve your vocal cords. You're supposed to like put a heating pad on your throat. It's just a lot. And then I'm narrating Monday through Thursday from like basically 10 a.m. to 5. And then she says that Friday, you're going to be fried from reading a book out loud 4 days straight. So she's like, do not plan any work that Friday. So that's good to know because I always double book myself. So yeah, I'm not looking forward to it. It's gonna be a lot of work, but I know it's gonna be worth it, just like the book was. So yeah, that'll be coming in May, the narration, and it'll be ready and available to purchase in September. So it takes a couple of months for Greenleaf, my publisher, to put the audiobook production together and to distribute it and all that good stuff. So yeah, it'll be available in September. But back to Danieli's question about learning more on the journey of writing a book. There's so much to talk about when it comes to book writing. We can talk about, and I can have an episode on each one of these, and I probably will eventually. But I can talk about how to find the motivation to write, what it looks like day to day to write a book, how to choose your publishing path, which, by the way, I do have a LinkedIn article on that. If you go to LinkedIn and search the hashtag Gigi author journey, you'll see an article I put out probably about a year ago about how I determined my publishing path, which was hybrid publishing, as well as other author tips under that hashtag. And that's only on LinkedIn, Gigi author journey. I can talk about how to deal with revisions during the editing phase, how to pick your title, your cover, how to find an illustrator, marketing, all things book launch, how I found my book launch team. It's a lot. It's a lot to cover, and I'm glad I have this space in the podcast where I will definitely be doing future episodes on all of these topics. And in May, I will be doing that free webinar based on questions that you want answered. So I will actually have a form where you can add any questions you'd like me to create my content around during that 1 hour presentation, and then there will also be time for Q&A for additional questions. But in this episode, I'm going to focus more on how to find the motivation to write, how to find the time to write, and the importance of creating an outline, a writing plan, and a routine. Because I think a lot of people struggle with, like, how do I get started, right? So finding the motivation, finding the time to write, and then having the structure through an outline, a writing plan, and routine is what's going to help you actually get started. So that's why we are going to focus on these elements today. Disclaimer, these steps are best for authors who are looking to self-publish or hybrid publish. If you are somebody that you want to get a book deal, you want to shop around your book idea to traditional publishers, have them pay you in advance, have them cover the cost of publishing, then you actually shouldn't start by writing the book unless it's unless it's a fiction book. If it's a novel, then yes, then you're supposed to write the novel or fiction book and then shop it around. But if you're doing a nonfiction book like I am, and most of the people that I talk to, want to do a nonfiction book about either like a memoir of their life or something that they're an expert in or something that they're passionate in. So yeah, if it's a nonfiction book, you actually should focus on learning the book proposal process first, because to shop your book around, you're not going to shop around your manuscript. You're going to shop around the book proposal. And that's a completely different process. I do have some insights into that because I kind of had to do that, kind of, but not really. But that's, again, this is not the process for people who are looking for a traditional, for a book deal. All right, so I wanted to share a statistic because it's really eye-opening. More than 80% of people want to write a book. And that makes sense, right? Like, we all have so many unique experiences, things that we go through, overcome, things that happen to us. So we all have a story to tell. So that statistic that 80% of people want to write a book does not surprise me. I would actually think it would be like 90% of people want to write a book, but only 1% actually do. So what does that say? That just says that a lot of people are like, oh, I should write a book, or I could write a book, but they don't actually put in the work. Kind of like me, how I don't put in the work to get abs. It's like, oh, I love to have abs, but am I going to keep a clean diet and hit the gym 24/7 to be able to have abs? Like, when I don't have abs genetically? No, I don't, so I just don't give it importance, right? So that's why it hasn't happened for me. So that's similar with the book writing process. You really have to be intentional. It's not something that happens overnight. You're going to write little bits and pieces over a long period of time, and it's very easy for people to give up halfway or to get distracted with other things. So, hoping these tips can help you get started. The other disclaimer I wanted to add regarding that statistic about 80% of people that want to write a book, but only 1% actually do. I wanted to share that that was me for a long time. So I first got the idea to write Cultura and Cash before it had the title Cultura and Cash, but it was still the same concept, this money book for the first gen community. I got the idea in December of 2020, and I started writing in January of 2021. When I say I started writing, I think I wrote probably 500 or maybe 1,000 words, maybe a little bit more actually. But it was honestly, it was nothing. It had no structure. It was nothing, and I didn't use any of that writing in my actual book. So again, that just comes to show you it was just like me journaling basically. I did not get serious about book writing until July of 2022. So basically, a year and a half later, after I got the idea in December of 2020, a year and a half later, in July of 2022, was when I actually put pen to paper and started writing, or rather, fingertips to laptop, and started writing. And the reason I share this is because if you are that person that you're like, I want to write a book, I just can't find the time, or, life keeps getting in the way, don't be too hard on yourself. Give yourself some grace. I was that person for a long time. And my reason was because I was building my new business. I had just quit my corporate job to do the first gen mentor full time. Because I was starting a business from scratch, I had a lot of business expenses, which meant I had to do a lot of brand deals, which is how I was making money back then to pay for these new business expenses, like the cost of trademarking, the cost of building a website, all these fun things. And on top of the expenses, obviously the energy that it drains out of you to start a business from scratch. So there were a lot of factors, and I had some health issues. So yeah, there were lots of things that pulled me away from writing. And anybody that's followed me on TikTok for a long time, you know that for a long time I've talked about the book. And when I used to go on TikTok live, people would ask me, "Oh, what's the status of the book?" And I would literally say, "There's no status. Like, I'm barely surviving, trying to, build my business and be a full-time creator and keep afloat. So there's no time to write." So I share this again, because you need to be in a good time in your life. You need to be in a good headspace to be able to actually get this done. So if you have a lot going on, if you have, a full plate with work, with kids, with family commitments, just being a human, going to the gym, taking care of yourself, eating, if you have mental health issues, whatever is going on in your life, like, don't be too hard on yourself if right now is not the right time. Because I don't want to say I tortured myself. It's a little dramatic, but I definitely was harsher on myself than I should have been about, like, oh, why haven't I started this book, when really, looking back, there was just no way. You can't start a business and write a book at the same time. It's too much. It's too much. So I'm really glad that I got my business in a solid place first, and then I started the book writing process. But also, what helped a lot was winning the TikTok Latinx Creatives Grant, winning this $50,000 grant, and knowing that I had the funding to get serious about it. So that was a big game changer. And also feeling responsible for the grant. I knew there was a lot of other talented creators that had applied for that grant, and only 10 of us were picked. So I really wanted to be a success story of this grant, and I took that responsibility serious, which is why I got serious about writing as soon as I heard the news that I had gotten awarded the grant. Um, let's see here. The other motivation besides winning the grant for me personally was wanting to evolve from quote unquote just a TikToker. I'm not just a TikToker, but a lot of people think I am. I'm a I'm a full ass professional, 10 years corporate experience, 6.5 in investment management, 3.5 in insurance, college educated. I have niche down in my expertise with investment performance measurement. Uh, but at the end of the day, a lot of people saw me as just a TikToker, and I didn't like that. I didn't like that, and I really wanted to shed that. And I still am going to be a TikToker, right? As long as TikTok's a platform, I will still be a TikToker. I will still be a content creator. But I really wanted to evolve to a published author, into an authority on this subject matter, which is personal finance, because I've been an educator. I've been a financial educator for 5 years now, counting the 2 years I did as a volunteer and the 3 years that I've been doing it as part of the first gen mentor. So that was a strong motivation for me too. Like understanding my why, like why do you actually want to write a book, helped keep me motivated. And then next, let's talk about how to stay committed to the writing process. I've mentioned this before that I had tried an accountability buddy, but it didn't work because she and I weren't on the same page. At this point, I was a little bit more serious about writing, and she wasn't. So we would meet like once a month, and I'm like, how's writing going for you? Any challenges? Any wins? And she'd just say, oh, like I've been swamped with work. I haven't had time. And again, not to be judgmental because I've been there too, but she just wasn't at the point where I was ready to really um, get serious about my writing, and I needed an accountability buddy who was on the same wavelength as me. So after about 3 meetings, I just said, "Hey, it seems like you're just not in the place to be writing, and I really need an accountability buddy that's like with me on this journey. So we'll like stop it for now, but wishing you the best." And she's great, and I wish her well. But yeah, it just wasn't a fit, right? If we actually weren't both writing. Uh, so then once I won the grant, I then knew, okay, I had been wanting to write this book for a year and a half. I didn't because I got busy with life and health issues and building a business. Then I tried the free route of getting an accountability buddy. That didn't work. I didn't know any other, I did know actually other aspiring authors, but nobody that was like, I'm writing my book right now. So I'm like, oh, how else do I stay accountable? And that's when I researched this concept of a book coach. At this point, I knew some published authors, and they had mentioned that working with a book coach had really, really helped them stay committed to their writing journey. So I interviewed a few book coaches. So I think I interviewed three, and I ended up hiring Stacy Ennis. Shout out to Stacy, to work with her for 6 months, one on one. It was a big investment, almost $20,000, and I used the grant funding to help cover that. And that was very powerful because con dinero baila el perro, you know? So as soon as this money, and even though it wasn't mine, it was through the grant, right? Like as soon as this money was deployed, I'm like, okay, this is real. We got to get serious now because I'm paying her a lot of money and this has to be worth it, right? So it really, really helped with my mindset and in like, this is serious. We're going to give it all we have. And it helped keep me accountable. So making some sort of investment like that, I mean, $20,000 is a lot of money. I probably wouldn't have been able to afford it if it wasn't for the grant. So you can try group coaching for a fraction of the price. I know Stacy offers group coaching. I believe her rate is $8,000 for like 4 months of group coaching. I'm not sure. Don't quote me on that. You can look into free writing groups with like-minded people, or try to find that accountability buddy that actually is on the exact same page when it comes to your writing journey, because in that way it's free, right? And you can support one another. And it doesn't even have to be somebody that's actually working on a book. It can be somebody that's, I don't know, launching a blog or launching a podcast, just doing like their own project, right? Somebody that you can just keep yourself motivated with, right? So that would be how to stay motivated. And then now let's talk about the importance of an outline and a writing plan. A lot of people think that when you write a book, you just open up your laptop, open up Word document, and start typing away. That's what I did when I started in January 2021. Remember, I told you I'm like, that wasn't really writing. That's what I thought writing a book was. And through working with Stacy, I learned that you actually have to create an outline of what your book content is going to be, as well as a writing plan. So yeah, my first month or two of work with Stacy, it was just focusing on the outline, on fleshing out all the ideas and the content that I wanted to cover in the book. That's called like the ideation process of her framework. That was really really helpful because it helped me get the clarity on what am I actually going to talk about in this book. Because if you don't have that roadmap, that's what your outline is, essentially a roadmap. You're gonna get lost in your writing. You're gonna get distracted. You're gonna get frustrated. You're gonna get confused about, wait, did I write this already? Did I not? Where with the outline, you can check off topics, right, as you go through them. So an outline was key, and Stacy, as my book coach, helped me fully develop my outline, which helped keep me on track. I believe she's currently offering outline reviews. Some book coaches, that's another good way actually. If you don't have the funds to work with a coach in a group setting or in a one-to-one setting, you can ask them to help you develop your outline, because in that way you have your roadmap, right? And that's some sort of help as you start your writing journey. And I think she's offering, I think, because I've been part of her newsletter and I saw something that I think she's offering outline reviews, or she can help you build your outline. I believe the investment is $1,000. Again, don't quote me on this, but something worth checking out. Her website is stacyennis.com. And no, this is not like, like I don't make any money from referring Stacy. I just love Stacy so much because she, hello, helped me write a book. So I want to help her business grow because she is the real deal. But yeah, the outline is going to be key in helping you pick up where you left off, especially on the weekends. For me, I would finish writing on a Friday and then I would not do any writing on Saturday. Well, most of the time. I would do writing on the weekends when I had to meet revision deadlines, but that's another part of the process. But when I was writing my first draft, which is the manuscript, that first round, I was only writing Monday through Friday, I think. Actually, I might have written weekends on too. Oh, yeah, yeah. Yeah, because there was some trips, there was some travel, and stuff got delayed. So, but generally speaking, I would only write Monday through Friday. So then the weekend happens and I unplug from my writing, and then I go back to writing on Monday and I'm like, wait, where did I leave off? And again, that outline helps you stay on track and re-engage into what you are writing about. Uh, and then next, a writing plan. You may think it's similar to an outline, but it's not. A writing plan is actually writing out on a calendar when you'll be completed with chapter one, when you'll be completed with chapter two, and so on and so on. And we did this through a project management app called Asana. I really like the Asana. I have experience with other project management apps like Monday. What's the other one that Trello? There's a bunch of them. There's a bunch of them out there, but I really like Asana, and that's what Stacy had me use for my writing plan. What's important about a writing plan, whether you do it digitally or you do it in a physical planner, is to be flexible. I had to push a couple deadlines back, and it's easy to feel frustrated, like, oh, I'm falling behind, but life happens and you have to give yourself that grace. I mean, if you're constantly pushing deadlines, then maybe you're not in the right place to be focused on writing a book, right? But yeah, if you have to extend a few deadlines here and there, that's completely fine. And also, it depends on how fast you want your book out. For me, I really wanted my book out in a year and a half, so I was grinding. But some people, if you're willing, one of my favorite books is called Brain of Gold by Victor Villaseñor. That book took him 26 years to write. 26 years, because part of it was research, interviewing his family members, and I don't know how long the actual writing process was. I want to ask him. He's still alive. I think he's in his 80s. He lives in Oceanside. Anywho, but yeah, I wonder how long it took him to write. But like I said, hopefully it won't take you 26 years to write your book. But depending on when you're looking to get published, you can be more flexible with your writing plan or not. For your writing plan, you want to, again, create deadlines for when you're going to finish chapter one, chapter two. And to really be able to stick to a writing plan, you're going to have to write consistently. What does that mean? That means that when I first started writing, again in January of 2021, when I had no clue what I was doing, I was only writing Thursdays and Fridays because I'm like, oh, that's when I have time. That's I was never gonna finish. I was never gonna finish. By the end of the week, I was already depleted from my whole week. So actually, looking back, I would have probably done writing Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday if I couldn't have fully committed to the 5 days. Because don't save it till the end when you're like wiped out, right? But for me, that meant writing 4 to 5 days a week. 5 days was a good week. 4 days was an okay week, but still a strong week. Sometimes I did only write 3 days because that's all I had in me. And I had to learn to be self compassionate and just be like, your body's telling you to rest. That's why this is all the juice you got. But yeah, typically 4 to 5 times a week is how often I would write. Let's see here. You don't have to write for that long. If you only have 30 minutes, an hour, that's still consistent writing. Some people are like, if you only have 15 minutes, do that. Honestly, I don't think that's fast enough or long enough for you to make substantial progress towards writing a book. I think you need at least 30 minutes to an hour for 4 to 5 times a week to really, really be consistent and be making progress. Oh, and when I say progress, I should probably share the word count. I Googled what's the average word count for a personal finance book, and it was 60,000 words, which is a lot. And wasn't sure I was going to be able to meet that, especially when in college I hated writing. My biggest paper was a 30-page paper. It was research project on, oh my god, this is so random, on the meat market industry and how it was very monopolized by like these three companies, and that's why our meat always has like all these issues like salmonella. Ugh, anywho, yeah, I was really into antitrust economics in college. I wish I would have learned more about that. Anywho, so yeah, so again, I would suggest 30 minutes to an hour to really say I'm consistently writing 4 to 5 times a week or 3 to 4 times a week, right? The other thing you have to know is writing, at least for me, it takes a lot of energy and creativity. So I find myself, wiped, not being able to do other kind of creative work like creating TikTok content. So I really scaled back on my TikTok content. So that's just kind of important to know because I really thought I was going to be able to manage both, still creating 5 TikTok videos a week while writing 4 to 5 times a week. And that just wasn't realistic. I only had so much energy to do one thing. Another bonus tip here when you are writing those 4 to 5 times a week, do not self edit. Any blog or book that you read or podcast you listen to about writing a book will tell you this: do not self edit, because you will get into this self editing loophole or like hell hole where you're like running in place because you keep saying, no, I should have written this better, I should revise this, no, I don't like how it sounds. That's not your job. That's the editor's job. Your job is just to get the writing out, to get your ideas out. Obviously, you want them to be like as well articulated as possible. You don't just want to throw crap because it's going to take a lot of cleanup from the editors. But you have to be very careful to not self edit. And the way you avoid that is by you should read part of what you last wrote when you get back into writing, like maybe like the last 2 pages of your writing when you get back into the next day's writing. But you have to just tell yourself you're not going to edit any of what's there, maybe like a sentence or two, but your job that day is to write more, not to edit the past, because that's what the editor's job is. And that's actually what you can do at the very end, right before you submit your draft. You can do a review and kind of edit it then. But that at this point you have like words on paper. Oh, and I didn't finish my thought about how a personal finance book is 60,000 words, and I didn't think I was going to make it. My book, I think, is 72,000 words. So I actually like wrote more than enough. which I'm really proud of. I just had a lot to say and actually had to cut back on stuff because I'm like, this is too overwhelming for the reader. That just kind of shows that when you're passionate and knowledgeable about what you're talking about, you can easily crush that writing goal. So don't be overwhelmed by 60,000 words like I was. Like it's funny, my book coach was like, and you thought you weren't gonna make 60,000, and you have 72. I'm like, I know. So again, stressing myself out over nothing, you know. Oh, the other thing that might be relevant here: how many words should you shoot for? It's gonna depend on how fast of a writer you are. I've heard of some authors that write 5,000 words a day. These are like pro authors. I also question the quality of that writing. Like, are all really 5,000 words worth keeping, or is half of it trash and the rest is good and the rest is like blubber, you know? For me, on average, I would write 1,000. On a bad day, I would write 400. On a good day, I would write 2,000. But on average, it'd be like 1,800 to 1,000. And that was a good solid number that got me to reach eventually 72,000 words. Again, it sounds like a lot, but when you do it consistently over a long period of time, 3 to 5 times a week for an hour, you'll get it done. But it's just, yeah, sticking to it every week. So that's why I'm telling you, if you can only commit to 2 days of writing, it's really not going to move the needle. It'll take you 4 years to finish your book. So that might not be an issue if you are fine with that, but a lot can happen. Your goals can change, life happens. So for me, I just wanted to get it out. Let's see here. The other thing I wanted to mention, like I said, I wasn't able to continue my TikTok content creation while writing a book full time. I also had to pause public speaking and focus on my energy on writing, because otherwise the travel from public speaking, the energy from speaking to large groups would have really set me back in my writing schedule, and I did not want that. Let's see here. Last here to close up the episode. Oh, I know. I wanted to add a note here about on those bad days. I mean, you know how I said that you will have bad days when you only write 500 words, and that might look different for you. That might be like 100 words for you. Maybe you're gonna like crush it, and you're gonna be able to easily knock out 3,000 words. Again, we all are like on our different journeys, have different experience with writing. But on those days, the bad days, it's important to give it a rest for the day and just be like, this is your body telling you that you need to rest. You need to let your mind rest, your body rest, and then go back to it tomorrow. Get back on the saddle tomorrow. Instead of like kicking yourself because, oh, I only did 400 words the day before, get back on the saddle the next day. And I would always find that when I would allow myself to do that, the next day I would have a good writing day and I would write 1,500 words. So again, on average with those 2 days, here's the 2,000 words that I typically write. So yeah, it's just important to not get discouraged from those bad days. It's important to also not fight through it and be like, no, I have to meet my word count. I mean, you can try. I don't think I ever tried that. I'm just like, no, I'm gonna give myself a break, and I found that much more productive in being able to be consistent with my writing. All right, and then last thing to close up here, I wanted to stress the importance of a routine. You're gonna have to figure out when you have the best energy to write. For some people, it's in the morning. Some people, it's in the afternoon. Some people write before sleep. I wanted to be a morning writer because in that way it would have been done and I could have had the rest of my day to do what I wanted. But that wasn't me. My creative brain isn't awake until after lunch. And I started writing at 11. That was kind of like a good time, 11 a.m. But then come 12:30, I'd get hungry and I'd break for lunch, and that break would just kind of like distract my writing. So I found it more beneficial to write in one block with no big breaks like lunch. So eventually, after lots of trial and error, I found that my writing schedule was best after lunch. So I had a morning routine. I'd walk the dog, shower, catch up with some emails, catch up with social media, post some content, and then I'd have lunch. And then I would write from like 1 to 3 or 1 to 4, again, depending on how much juice I had that day. And once I narrowed down my routine of like, okay, do it after lunch, because that's when you're not going to be hungry for a while. You just had lunch. And then you probably won't be hungry again till like 5 or 6 for dinner time. So again, I had that big window between 1 to 4 to really be able to make some progress. Bonus tip here, too. I just realized this. Don't write at home. I tried writing at home, and there were some days that I had to write at home because the weather was bad. The snow was bad, but there's more distractions at home. So the dog would distract me, my husband would distract me, the TV would distract me, my bed would be calling my name. So I wrote the majority of my book at my gym. At the time, I was an Equinox member, and they have a lounge area where people that are members can hang out in and co-work. So that's actually where I did, I would say probably, I mean, 90% of my writing. And like I said, the other 10% was on those bad snow days. And yeah, a lot of people recommend that, to not write at home because there's so many distractions at home, especially if you have children. I tried writing at coffee shops. I found there was too much buzz going on, too many distractions to focus. So I really like that I was able to use the lounge. I would encourage you to look maybe into like a co-working space where you can rent a private office, something like that. Or if you live in a building that has a lounge, my building has a lounge, and that would be a good place to still be close to home and be able to go, home if I needed to for anything, but away from the distractions. I think that's it for today. Yeah, I don't want to go too long. So I hope that these tips help anybody who is looking to get started writing a book, get started. So again, to do a brief overview, we talked about the importance of, Jesus Christ, where is this at? Oh, the importance of finding the motivation, the importance of finding the time to write, and the importance of creating an outline, a writing plan, and a routine. So, again, I hope these tips helped for any aspiring authors. I am so excited to share many more tips with you in our free live webinar in May. I don't have a date for it yet, so stay tuned. Make sure that you subscribe to my email list so that you don't miss that announcement. The link to sign up is in my show notes. I send monthly emails, so I'm not going to spam you. I don't have time to spam you. And then lastly, if you like this episode, please leave a review on Apple Podcasts. The reason I ask is because my wonderful website designer, Jennifer Cepeda, is adding a tab on my website for the podcast. If you go to my website, thefirstgenmentor.com, there is no home for this podcast. So it exists, right? You're listening to it. It exists on Spotify or Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen to podcasts, but I want a designated place where I can have past episodes, all the show notes, um, statistics on the podcast, as well as reviews, listener reviews on this page. So if you can please help me out with that, it doesn't have to be long, just like a sentence or two on why you enjoy the podcast. Please leave it on Apple Podcasts, and that would really help me out. Thanks for listening, and see you next time.